Hello and welcome to today's Hindu newspaper analysis of the Delhi edition from the editorial section. Closing the gaps in criminal justice. States could do better in incorporating the Supreme Court's crucial guidelines to tomorrow's certain deficiencies. What is gist of this article? Last year, the Supreme Court of India, while hearing a criminal appeal, took so moto cognizance. Cognizance of certain deficiencies, inadequacies which occur during the course of criminal trials. As a result, it issued in the necessary conditions, directions in the read to issue certain guidelines regarding the inadequacies and deficiencies in criminal trials, the state of Andhra Pradesh in 2021. These directions inter alia included presentation of site plan, inquest report and body sketches in a post-mortem report in a uniform manner, photographers and videographs of post-mortem in certain cases, and separation of prosecution from the investigation. From the investigations. The High Court and the state government were accordingly asked to notify the draft rules of criminal practice 2021, which all the states and High Court had agreed upon with the minor variations and make minor variations. Preparing a site sketch. The criminal procedure code, also known as CRPC, mandate that the officer in charge of a police station shall, on receiving information about the commission of a cognizance offence, proceed of the spot in person to investigate the facts and circumstances of the case. The general practice is to prepare a site sketch that shows details of the crime scene and collect evidence which could connect the presence of the criminal justice. The court has vigorously held that a site plan drawn on a scale is admissible if the witness corroborate these statements of draftsmen that they showed in him palaces. The content of the site map would not become admissible and evidence merely exhibition by the investigating officer. The guidelines issued now say that the site sketch prepared by the investigating officer shall be followed by a skilled site plan prepared by a police draftsman, if available, or another authorized or nominated draftsman by the state government. Therefore, looking at the importance of a site plan which captures the detail of a crime scene and its surroundings, particularly in a case of suspicious death, the police need to develop its own cadre of draftsmen. The guidelines mandate that every medical legal certificate and post-mortem report shall contain a printed format and human body with both formal frontal and nearer view. Testing veracity. The purpose of the preparing an inquest report is to ascertain whether a person has died under suspicious circumstances or died in unnatural death, and if so, what the nature injuries are said in the apparent case of death. However, if the evidence and materials collecting during the inquest make it a prima facie case of any offence, a criminal case is registered and regular investigation taken up even without any formal complaint from anyone. It is settled law that the contents of the inquest report cannot be treated as evidence, but they can be looked into to test the veracity of the witnesses of the inquest. However, if the investigating officer himself observes and records evidence, it is treated as the direct or primary evidence in the case and the best in the eyes of the law. Okay, eyes of the law. Similarly, the post-mortem report is a document. Similarly, a post-mortem report is a document which by itself is not a piece of substantive evidence. It is the statement of the doctor in court, which has the credibility of the substantive evidence. The post-mortem report can only be used as an aid to be refresh memory of the doctor while giving evidence. The significance of the evidence of the doctor lies vis-a-vis the injuries appearing on the body of the deceased person and the likely use of a weapon. For better scrutiny, the National Human Rights Commission, also known as NHRC, has already laid down similar guidelines for cases of death in police custody. The importance of body sketches in a uniform format in an inquest report and a post-mortem report cannot be overemphasized. Their standardization will not only help the court to better appreciate these reports and scrutinize the evidence, but will also help in the investigating officers and doctors to refresh their memory with more clarity. The Supreme Court has directed that in case of death person in police action or death in police custody, the magistrate or investigating officer, also known as IO, shall inform the hospital to arrange for photography and videography for conducting post-mortem examination of the deceased. Similar guidelines first issued by the NHRC back in 1995 and then revised from time to time are being meticulously implemented by the enforcement agencies. The Supreme Court in People's Union for the Civil Liberties versus State of Maharashtra in 2014 issued similar guidelines for death in exchange of fire with the police. The implementation of the scheme of having trained photographers at police stations in accordance with the Supreme Court's ruling of 2018 in Shafi Muhammad versus State of Himachal Pradesh is also underway in a phased manner so that scenes of heinous offences are videographed, and photographing using digital cameras as a desirable and acceptable practices, and their harsh values taken to break the evidence tamper proof. Draft code now provide provides that investigating officers shall seize such photographs and videographs, preserve the original state separate memory card, and obtain certificate under section 65B regarding admissibility of electronic records of the Indian Evidence Act 1872. The purpose of these guidelines is to ensure that there is uniformity of procedure in dealing with the cases of both in police action or police custody without any tampering of evidence. Therefore, it will be appropriate for the police forces across the state to speed up implementation of the above scheme and have their own cadre of photographers so that expertise is maintained at the police station level. On investigation, the Supreme Court has further directed that the state government shall appoint advocates other than public prosecutors to advise the investigating officer during investigation. Currently, in many states, a public prosecutor advises the investigating officer to check and make up for any deficiency in investigation before submitting the charge sheet in the court. Previously, there had been conflicting judgment by the Supreme Court on this issue. The court in the Sarla versus T.S. Bellu 2000 held that as per the Supreme Court of the criminal CRPC, the investigation ends with the information of opinion by the police as to whether on the material collected a case is made out to place the accused for trial. The formation of the side opinion by the police is that final step of investigation, and this final step is to be taken by the police and by no other authority. The police prosecutor is an officer of the court and his role essentially is inside the court. More recently, in the state of Gujarat versus Kishan Bhai 2014, the court, while taking note on the many lapse in investigation, directed that on compulsion of the investigation in a criminal case, the prosecuting agency should apply its independent mind and require all shortcomings to be rectified, if necessary, by requiring further investigations. Since investigation and prosecutions are two different facets in the administration of criminal justice, the three-judge bench of the Supreme Court has now rightly asked the state to separate the two things. Chhattisgarh has sanctioned as a cadre of law officer who shall function independently of the public prosecutors and will have no role in the court. To assist the investigating officer in education and improving investigation work, other states should also follow suit. Similarly, the creation of a cadre of draftsmen and photographers may take time. Executive orders may be issued without further delay, followed by training of investigation officers and medical doctors in order to implement the Supreme Court's directives. So this concludes from this article. To begin with, the UGC needs to get credit right. How having course credit proportional to teaching hours, as is spelled out in its draft in HEQS, it will impact faculty productivity. As I waited my way through various documents that are generally referenced in any discussion on a 4-year undergraduate degree program in India, starting with the choice-based credit system, also known as CBCS, the learning outcome-based curriculum framework, also known as LOCF, and the University Grant Commission, also known as UGC, the latest draft National Education Qualification Framework, also known as NHEQF, document the last undergraduate student in me was happy. Implications for teaching. What are the implications for the teaching? Anyone who has gone through the rigid and terribly outdated course structure of degrees such as BCom or BA in most Indian universities would be really happy to see the choice. Flexibility and liberal ethos embedded in its vision. Following on with the proposed changes in higher education under the new education policy, also known as NEP, it seems like Indian students are firmly poised to receive an actual education and not just meaningless pieces of paper, masquerading as a degree certificate. Despite this bold vision, however, there seem to be quite a few kinks that need to be ignored out at the conceptual level before embarking on its implementation. Here I deal with implications of the credit system as currently envisaged in these documents vis-a-vis the teaching quality and research productivity of faculty. Faculty is posed by the NAP, while the NHEQS attempts to provide much needed clarity on a variety of issues, from the type of courses in initial and later years of 4-year degree and the associated nomenclature for multiple exit options. It continues to equate 1 credit to 1 teaching hour. If the credit-based choice system or the LOC credit structure of core courses of 6 credits and elective of 4 credits each is to be followed, then it has serious implications for the teaching workload. About this there is no much discussion in any of these documents. At 6 credit for a core courses with an emphasis on tutorials in section of not more than 20 students. It's not most important. Interpreting the credit, not most important. Let's move to another article. A message for Russia. Putin should take note of the view of the global community and end the war. The suspension of Russia from the UN Human Rights Council has turned the global spotlight on the civilian killing in Ukraine. The United States sponsored resolution in the UN General Assembly was approved by 93 votes. August 24. with 58 other stations and included India. Russia has faced immense criticism after bodies were found in the states of Bukha in northern Ukrainian town. From there, Russian troops withdrew following the Istanbul talks. Istanbul is the capital of the Turkey. Russia claims it to be the staged events and facts, while the truth should be established in an independent UN-monitored probe. There is no doubt that civilians were targeted. Okay, according to the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, at least 1,611 civilians have been killed and 2,227 injured in Ukraine since the war began. Russia cannot evade its responsibility for these losses. When Russia began the invasion, President Vladimir Putin had said the main objective of what he called the special military operations were the demilitarization and denazionization of the Ukraine. Denazionization of the Ukraine. Considering the three-front war of Russia launched, it was evident that Moscow wanted to meet its real objectives, whatever they were, quickly. But Ukraine's fierce resistance, especially in the north, has changed the course of the conflict, which now looks like a war of attrition focusing on Ukraine's east. Now both Ukraine and Russia are in difficult situation. The Ukrainians with military and financial aid from west have pushed back in the north, but lost territories in the east and the south. Given the power imbalance, it is unlikely that Ukraine can regain the lost territories. Now Russia now seems to have been bogged down in the battlefield, with international criticism mounting on its war conduct. What is in the best interest of all parties is a cessation of hostilities and a diplomatic solution. The Istanbul talks had opened a path towards peace. According to the Ukrainian proposals, President Zelensky has agreed to accept neutrality in return for multilateral security assurance. He is also ready for a consultation period of 15 years for Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. Crimea is the tapu of the Black Sea, and discusses the status of the self-declared Donetsk and Luhansk republics in a summit with Putin. It was after these proposals that the Russians announced their pullback from north, but the Bukha killings appear to have clouded the peace process. Investigation into the civilian killings should go in a parallel and not derail on the diplomatic process. Russia should follow up on its words with the more demonstrable actions to end the hostilities. The war has damaged its economy. And its reputation as a great power regarding with Russia, while causing unspeakable losses and destruction in Ukraine. The most important message from the UN body to Moscow is that it should cease the fire and take the path of diplomacy immediately. This is the message for the Moscow by the United Nations General Assembly. This is the important message. Peace without past. The full impact of Imran Khan's action only be known after the next election. Pakistan is the neighboring country of India. It is something happening in Pakistan also impacted to India. And it is something happening in India, it is also impacted to Pakistan. With its verdict on Thursday, Pakistan Supreme Court effectively ruled that events of the last week in Pakistani politics were null and void, holding the Deputy Speaker's action on Sunday unconstitutional and illegal when he rejected the opposition's no confidence motion against Prime Minister Imran Khan. The verdict, which has been held by the opposition and Pakistan media as the defeat of Mr. Khan, assault on democracy, has had the slightly unusual impact of, okay, reinstating PM Khan after he had voluntarily resigned and resurrecting the National Assembly, which had been dissolved the same day by Pakistani President Arif Alvi. Here, two things is important from here. Who is Prime Minister of Pakistan? Imran Khan is Prime Minister of Pakistan. Okay. Who is President of Pakistan? Arif Alvi is the President of Pakistan, has called for the fresh elections. Parliamentarians will now on Saturday re-enact their actions and convince again for the no confidence motion vote. However, it will not be de jure, as the Speaker has ordered by the court on how to proceed it, by holding the no confidence vote and then adjournment only if Mr. Khan is able to win the vote. If he loses, as he likely, the session can be adjourned after a new Prime Minister is voted. The Supreme Court has also ended Mr. Khan's plan B after it became clear that the combined opposition, including members of his Pakistani Tehreek-e-Insaf and many of his coalition partners, had the numbers to install Pakistan Muslim League National. Chief Shehbaz Sharif, in his place, he raised the foreign conspiracy bogey. He ensured the confidence vote was cancelled, and before the opposition could gather its thoughts, raised through his resignation and recommendation to President Alvi for fresh elections. The pace and purpose of the actions of the former cricket captain were to ensure that none of the decisions could be reversed, and willy-nilly the country could be pushed into elections a year earlier than the assembly tenure ends. It is clear that Mr. Khan overestimated his ability to manage the denouncement of the drama played out this week. He has also made some formidable opponents apart from the political opposition, including Pakistan all-powerful military establishment, which he has openly challenged. The US, which has consistently avoided engaging with him, and which he has named for threatening him, and the judiciary itself, which his cabinet colleagues has accused of carrying out a judicial coup against him. While Saturday's events may finally draw the curtains on the political thriller and his user in a new government, the final verdict on Mr. Khan's seemingly reckless and unprecedented actions will probably only be sounded when the country next goes to the polls. If Mr. Khan is voted out, he will reinforce the precedent in one's respect. No Pakistani Prime Minister since 1947 has yet completed the full 5-year term of the National Assembly in office. समझ गए? किसी भी पाकिस्तानी प्रधानमंत्री ने अपने 5 साल पूरे नहीं किए हैं 1947 के, अगर ये भी खो देते हैं तो these are the message from here. Okay. This is also cleared from here. The people caught between the two states is not most important. Court issued order that give relief to Akar Patel. वर्ल्ड न्यूज पे मूव करते हैं. IBI to focus on inflation lifts estimates. Sri Lanka opposition warns of trust vote. श्रीलंका में आजकल कहानी रॉकेट अटैक ऑन यूक्रेन ट्रेन स्टेशन इज किल्ड 50 पीपल. क्या कहानी चल रही है? लीड फॉलो गेट आउट द वे. ओके. प्रेम दहासा स्टेडियम है. प्रेम दहासा टेल्स प्रेसिडेंट गोटाबाया एमिड थ्रेट्स ऑफ इम्पीचमेंट. Sri Lanka's opposition leader Sajid Premdasa on Friday warned President Gotabaya Rajapaksa of a trust vote against his government if he continued to remain in the power, defying citizens' persistent demand for his immediate resignation. For weeks, Sri Lankans have been out on the streets every day, protesting the government mishandling of the economic crisis that has left them scrambling for food, fuel and medicines. Amid long power cuts, demonstrations and across the country are asking President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the ruling family step down. While all ministers in cabinet resigned last weekend amidst the growing public outrage, the president and his brother Mahendra Rajapaksa, who is the prime minister, stubbornly remain in office. All opposition parties have rejected Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's offer to form a national government under his presidency. Speaking in Parliament during the adjournment debate on the International Monetary Fund, also known as IMF, report on Sri Lanka's economic situation, Mr. Premdasa told Mr. Gotabaya either follow or get out the way. In addition to demanding that the president step down, Mr. Premdasa, leaders of the Samaji Jana Bhagya, also sought the abolition of the executive presidential system of governance that gives sweeping powers to the office. While Mr. Premdasa appeared to echo the chief demand of citizens across the country in the House, getting a no confidence motion should not be all that simple. Even with the support of all other parties sitting in opposition, the ESGB, which has 54 seats, can muster just over 70 votes. This is not most important. Pakistan PM says he will not recognize opposition attempt to remove him. ठीक कह रहे हैं. PM granted Israel security forces free rein in act after attack on citizens. Thailand stuns India to enter the final. Amish, Shumit and Ananta cruise in final. Baker found guilty of 4 changes. Mahindra Racing hopes to get back on track. Ask party and the sublime lessons of being. Asli baat hai. India's newly crowned chess queen, bigger conquests. Main issue in India is league structure. Kushal Das says the duration of ISL needs to be increased. So this concludes for today's Hindu newspaper analysis. So thanks for watching.